Life, death, taxes, and the English media being the biggest ops out there for their own national team. Ladies and gentlemen, anything you've ever collected in your life, put it all together, bring in your earnings, bring in your life savings, and put all of that money on those four things happening throughout the year. It's as simple as the sun rising and setting. It is bound to happen. And the latest victim of the media witch hunt is a certain Mr. Jude Bellingham. Now, of all people, I thought Jude would be safe. He's out of the England limelight. He's out of the Premier League limelight. He's not faced with the English press on a daily basis. He's not even given the chance to really create a narrative around him. He's out of sight, out of mind. First with Dortmund in Germany, and now in Spain with Real Madrid. And his performances for England have been so consistent, so good, so ever present in the biggest moments that you almost think to yourself, of all players that English journalists could criticize, Jude has to be the last one, right? But lo and behold, right when you think you got these guys figured out, they pull another ace out their sleeve. No one is safe from these guys. Well, some people might, but we'll get into that very, very soon. Jude Bellingham. England beat Albania 2-0 away. Harry Kane adding another 2 goals to his England record, putting himself even further clear as the country's greatest all-time goal scorer. And yet, all of the talk, all of the conversation, all of the narrative surrounds one man and one man only. Jude Bellingham. I mean, at this point, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. How many more times do we have to see these guys go through the squad? Him right there. This is the next one. This is the next one up that we are going to build up to the most ridiculous expectations and standards ever, just to eventually make him crumble, bring him down at the slightest sign of adversity. The latest one is Jude Bellingham. Now, the reasons are hysterical. The English press are not content with the way Jude Bellingham departed the pitch upon being substituted against Albania. The English press are not happy with the way he celebrated after Harry Kane's goal. The English press have deemed Jude Bellingham as a bad egg, as immature, as a problem, and as overrated. Don't believe me? Everywhere you look this week, in the papers, online, The Guardian, Bellingham must cut the nonsense if he wants to take center stage under Thomas Tuchel. His talent is not in question, but England's brightest young star still lacks the maturity his national manager demands. BBC Sport, is Bellingham Tuchel's best player or a problem to solve? Stop this nonsense, says The Sun. England fans left fuming by what Jude Bellingham did during Albania clash. And of course, Craig Hope, why Thomas Tuchel should leave divisive soloist. Divisive solo. Oh my God. Yo, that almost took me. Divisive soloist. Wow. Do you guys know how extreme of a term that is to call someone a divisive soloist? Not only are you basically a loner, but you're a loner that casts everyone else away. Divisive soloist, Jude Bellingham. Why Thomas Tuchel should leave him out of his World Cup squad. Doesn't matter how good a player he is. This is why his ridiculous antics. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. Honestly. This is why his ridiculous antics threaten England's shot at glory. Unlock more of the best of our journalism. Brilliant exclusives, in-depth insight. Shut up, man. Terrible. I'm happy I can't even read the whole article. But he went on Twitter, this guy, Craig Hope, right? I think he's a Newcastle journalist. And just absolutely ripped Jude to shreds. Ripped him. And you know the funniest thing about all 4 of these article headlines? None of them have anything to do with how good of a footballer Jude Bellingham is. There is no criticism towards his game. There is no concern about how he plays with the ball at his feet. There is no worry about his performances over the last few years for England. All 4 of those articles, in fact, talked about how good a player he is. No, what all 4 of those wonderful, brilliant, insight, in-depth journalists provided was all about his personality. And lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, that is the biggest issue with media in England. And this is shots fired at all of you guys. Honestly, all of you old school traditional journalists. It's a shot at all of you guys. All of you old, washed up, nasty, vindictive people. The problem with you guys is it's never about the football. Ever. You have no, to be honest with you, I don't know if I trust you guys to actually break down a game from an analytical point of view or from a tactical point of view or from a quality point of view. All you guys know in this country is narrative and agenda and personality breakdown. That's all you guys know. It's like fan fiction what we read. Divisive soloist? Oh my goodness, I didn't know Edgar Allan Poe wrote for the Daily Mail. Divisive soloist. Sorry to break it to you, Craig Hope, but you do not know Jude Bellingham. You're not in the dressing room. You don't rub shoulders with this guy in training. You're not on the pitch with him. You have no idea about this guy. Maybe you passed a comment to him once or twice. More likely than not, probably not. But to label someone a divisive soloist, ridiculous antics, I mean, get a grip. Seriously, get a grip. England were so sorry last Euros. Honestly, pathetic. That if it wasn't for Jude Bellingham, they would have been knocked out at the very first knockout game against, who was it? Slovakia. They would have been sent home by Slovakia, man. Lobotka was running rings around them. They were 1-0 down. And who saved your sorry ass in the final moments of regular time? Jude Bellingham. But the biggest conversation from that game wasn't about his bicycle kick. It wasn't about his unbelievable play to keep his team in the tournament. No, the biggest conversation was what he said after celebrating. Jude Bellingham scored, went over to the England fans in hysteria, lifted his arms out as he always does, and said, "Who else?" He had the cojones to basically be proud of his work. Be arrogant. But that's the problem with media in this country. They hate to see a guy with self-belief. Honestly, they absolutely hate it. They want you to be humble. They want you to be meek. They want you to be quiet. They want you to be a good boy. And they want you to basically demean yourself as much as possible. That's who the English media likes. They don't like a boisterous, self-confident, arrogant, if you even want to stretch that bit. They don't want that in their players, man. And if they do see it, that's the first flick in their mind. He's the next target. You've seen it so many times, man. Hell, sometimes you don't even have to be that for them to target you. But that is the number one way to become public enemy number one when it comes to the English press. The minute you show even a little bit of personality, even a little bit of self-belief, these guys turn into a pack of blood-hungry wolves, man. They turn into hyenas. They sniff blood. And that's exactly what's happened to Jude Bellingham. A guy who, by his own admission, hates losing, hates being substituted, thinks he's the guy, thinks he's one of the best players in the world. And guess what, guys? He can back it up. And he has numerous times. Have criticisms about Jude Bellingham's game. By all means, I think that's fair play. We're talking about football here. He's a footballer. His game is up for critique. But it's hilarious to me how it always comes down, without fail, to personality and mentality and characteristics of the person. Never about their football. It's never about that. They run the risk of isolating the best talent, or one of the best talents, I would say, that England have produced in the last 15 years. For my reckoning, he's up there with the likes of Wayne Rooney, obviously Phil Foden since then, Saka, Palmer. These guys are world-class England talents that the country has produced. And instead of championing all of them, what do? Tear them down at the first sign of adversity. It's a tale as old as time, man. It's happened with Saka at the Euros, Rashford and Sancho. We know what happened after that penalty shootout. We know what happened. We know what's happened to Wayne Rooney in the past, right? We know what's happened to David Beckham in the past. We know what's happened to, most infamously of all, Raheem Sterling in the past. Trent, this is nothing new, and Jude Bellingham is the latest victim of it. And honestly, it's so obvious what they're doing here. It is so obvious, guys. With the World Cup about a year ahead, they have now painted Jude Bellingham as the potential issue to England winning the World Cup. He is the potential stumbling block, the potential roadblock to England not winning the World Cup. If they even do it to begin with. But here's what's going to happen. England are going to go to the next World Cup, and more likely than not win it. I don't believe England are going to win the World Cup. Do they have a chance? Sure. Are they one of the favorites? Absolutely. But they're up against some other good teams, right? They're going to go to that World Cup. They're going to either flatter to deceive or they're going to fall short. They're not going to win it. And the building blocks, the platforming, the work has already been done 12 months in advance to already paint Jude Bellingham as the face of all of England's problems. England will fail at next year's World Cup, and he will be placed with all the burden on his shoulders. All of it. And the sorry part is, right, again, he's been amazing for England since he's joined the national team setup. He's been amazing. He's been consistent. He's popped up in big moments. There is nothing to look at with Jude Bellingham and his performances to critique. Honestly, again, if you have problems with how he plays the game, maybe. But he's been one of England's most consistent players since he put on the shirt. But players who have massively underperformed, either at times or throughout their England career, continuously get away with murder. Game in, game out. I love Phil Foden. I think Phil Foden's unbelievable, man. And I think, to be honest with you, rival fans have started demeaning him and honestly disrespecting how good of a player he is. But let's also call it what it is. Let's call a spade here. He's been rubbish for England. Honestly, Phil Foden has been consistently underwhelming for England and yet has never faced even one iota of what Jude Bellingham has gone this week from the press. Ever. Harry Kane. I'm not going to sit here and say Harry Kane's never performed for England. He's their top scorer ever. He has definitely performed in big moments for them. But last Euros, let's call it what it is. The guy was a disgrace at times. The guy was honestly unfit to be on the pitch. Maybe even physically unfit. He didn't look injury-free. No criticism of his game whatsoever. None. Zilch. Zero. Raheem Sterling, the best player for England at the Euros in 2021 on home soil. And these guys have the nerve to ask him, do you think you've proven the manager's decision to start you? As if he hasn't been one of England's best performers at international tournaments since he put on the shirt. It's sickening, man. It's sickening. And Jude Bellingham, honestly, keep your head up high. I know you're not watching this video, but keep your head up high and don't change who you are for any of these losers, man. Seriously. Do not change who you are for any of these no-lifes. Because what they are doing right now is despicable. Jude Bellingham, you are who you are because of your self-belief, because of your personality. You're a damn good player. Everybody knows that. Anybody doubting that is an idiot. But beyond that, what makes you great, what makes you a champion, what makes you a leader is your personality, is your edge, is the fact that, yeah, at times you are a bastard. But guys, the best players ever are. Cristiano Ronaldo was not a nice guy on the football pitch at all. The guy's celebration is literally infamous for like, Sue. You think him going Sue is like, thank you guys. No, it's not. It's like, I'm the guy. The guy used to take off his shirt and flex in front of people. Cristiano Ronaldo is a win at all costs machine. Lionel Messi paints the picture of a meek, quiet guy. You don't think Lionel Messi is one of the most fiercely competitive players of all time? Go watch what he did against the Netherlands. Imagine an England player did that, what he did to Van Gaal. Imagine. Zlatan. We love him for his personality. Maradona, like the greats have edge, man. That's what makes them special, past even their unbelievable ability. And yet, you've taken one of Jude Bellingham's best attributes, his personality, his leadership, his mentality. You've taken one of the best attributes he possesses as an intangible and vilified him with it. You flipped the script and made it a bad trait to have. Yes, I'm sure on the pitch, he is probably barking at other players. Good. We're not building Legos here, man. We're trying to win a World Cup. I'm sure he has a handful in the dressing room. I'm sure he doesn't like being substituted. I'm sure all of that is true. Why is that a problem? Why would that ever be a problem? Why would you want your players happy to leave the pitch? I want my players to want to die on the pitch. And yet they have managed to spin this as a negative on Jude Bellingham. Unbelievable to me. And you know the funniest thing about all of this? Why is this not a problem at Real Madrid? Why do we never hear the Spanish media paint out Jude Bellingham's mentality flaws or his personality flaws? Why do we never hear these stories out of Spain? And it's not like Spain, by the way, is the nicest, fairest media ever, by the way, right? They definitely aren't. But as far as I know, we have never heard stories like this coming out of Spain. We have never heard stories coming out of this from the Madrid media. We've never heard stories from Madrid's coach. We've never heard stories from Madrid's players. They love Jude over there. They do. Since he's joined the club, he has been nothing short of sensational. By the way, right, you talk about Jude Bellingham as a winner, right? First of all, forget about what he's won, what he's willing to do to win. The guy sacrificed himself through injury, through different positions. He's sacrificed output. He's played at right back at times. He will do whatever it takes to win. That's the kind of player I want on my team. I'm sorry. Bun all of this talk about arrogance or whatever. You want players that are willing to die to win. That's Jude Bellingham. But only in this country can that be painted as a negative. Honestly, it's bewildering to me, man. But it's not just the English media that needs to hold some responsibility this week. Honestly, Thomas Tuchel. I'm a big fan of Thomas Tuchel. Massive respect for him. I think he's a fantastic coach. I think his track record when it comes to silverware speaks for itself. Champions League winner, several-time domestic league winner, and doing a fantastic job on the pitch for England, right? Their record since he's taken over, I believe they've won every single game. They breezed through qualifying. He's a good coach. But I'm sorry, with Thomas Tuchel, there has always been question marks surrounding his management. Not his coaching, but his management. Is he able to properly express himself and deal with big personalities and big egos? Is he able to keep a dressing room united? There have been question marks throughout his career, right? At Dortmund, at PSG, there's stories surrounding Mbappe and Neymar and Thomas Tuchel at times having headaches because they would effectively do what they wanted to do at Bayern, and now with England. I don't think, to be honest with you, Thomas Tuchel has dealt with any of the discourse around Jude Bellingham well whatsoever. For a manager of his experience, I think he should have dealt with the questions clearly aimed with agenda in mind much, much better. Some of his responses, for me, have been very, very immature for a manager of his experience. To come out and almost give these guys more ammunition. Put fuel to the fire. These guys are trying to attack one of your players. Bro, whether you agree with it or not, whatever your stance is on the topic, you have to protect your player there, man. Have to. I feel like he almost threw Jude Bellingham to the wolves a little with his reaction. And I don't think there might be a language barrier here. There might be, I don't know, like just a complete loss in translation. Thomas Tuchel's German. At times, we have known Germans to be very, very blunt, similar to the Dutch. I don't know what's going on here. But I think he's got a responsibility as not just the manager of England, but also the biggest representative there is for the national team. The voice, really, he is, to defend his players better in these situations. And for me, in several instances, right? I remember a few months ago with Jude Bellingham, he called his behavior repulsive. And then I think he tried clarifying that it was his mother that called his behavior repulsive. And it's like, you should be avoiding these questions, I feel, a whole lot smoother for a manager of all the wealth of experience you have. And the way he answered some of the questions this week as well, too, I think he could have done a whole lot better. Because now I think he has just stoked the flames when it comes to the Jude Bellingham discourse. And honestly, I can't believe I'm even saying the Jude Bellingham discourse, the Jude Bellingham conversation. There should be no conversation. When he's fit, Jude Bellingham has proved to be a huge player for this national team. Huge. And for my money, I would start him. Now, that's a whole nother conversation. Some people prefer Cole Palmer. Some people prefer other players. Me personally, if I was England manager, Jude Bellingham would be one of the first names on my team sheet. And I fully expect him to be in a year's time at the World Cup. But please, Thomas Tuchel, you got to do a better job protecting this guy. Because there have been far too many case studies of English superstars that fall victim to what is effectively one of the nastiest witch hunts in media flat out. The England football media. Nasty pieces of work, man. Sven-Göran Eriksson, famously, his last words before leaving as England manager in 2006 was to plead with the English media to spare Wayne Rooney after his sending off against Portugal. Because he remembered what happened with David Beckham all those years back. And he remembered how long it took for David Beckham to repair his image and rise back into the good books of people. He begged the English media to spare Wayne Rooney from those same hardships. Thomas Tuchel should be doing the same thing. Should be telling the media the same thing. Back off. Back off, man. What this guy has accomplished for this country, what this guy means for this team. Beyond all of your talk about his theatrics or his antics or about him being a divisive soloist. Honestly, it's all media talk. But I feel like he stoked the flames a bit too much. Now, there's numerous reasons for why this stuff happens. I'm not going to try and hide from the fact that are there racial connotations? Absolutely. When you look at some of the players, or I would say a majority of the players that the English media have kind of pinpointed and scapegoated in the past, absolutely. You'd be naive to think that there isn't an angle from a racial point of view. Absolutely. You'd be very naive to think otherwise. But also, I think a big part of this here is that they just hate to see somebody with a bit of self-belief shine. I really believe that's the biggest thing here. I'm astounded at the way it's all gone down this week. I really couldn't believe it. At first, I thought it was some little small story. And then I see Craig Hope on my timeline every 2 minutes tweeting about how Jude Bellingham is effectively a cancer to the national team and needs to be taken out for the good of the nation. Get a life, bro. Get a life. This is sickening stuff, honestly. Like, share, subscribe, guys. Give your 2 cents in the comment section down below. I'll be reading the comments. Does Jude Bellingham not even make your England squad? Does he get into the starting 11? For me, it's a no-brainer, but I can also understand that some people might hold a different opinion. We'll see you guys very, very soon. Peace.